Right, and also I think we'll get into a life cycle analysis here in a moment with Apple, but just as a quick preview of that, when Procter & Gamble looked at its laundry detergent, it found that the highest carbon intensity was with its customers, and that's because people used hot water when they were washing. So that led to the development of cold water Tide and associated laundry detergents. So it's looking across a variety of metrics and leading indicators that can lead to a triple bottom line scorecard.
Great, thanks. All right, well now back on the ground, things are changing as well. I'm sure many of you have heard that buildings are basically energy hogs. They use about 40% of the energy in the United States and produce almost 40% of the CO2 emissions and suck up 72% of the electricity in the US. So that's a pretty significant problem. But the green building market is hoping to change this. The market itself is likely to double by 2013 to up to $140 billion market. The green construction industry is also projected to increase to $60 billion in 2010. This is a fairly significant part of our economy at over 13% of US GDP. So when you take a look at a green building, how much of a difference can it really make? Well, green buildings consume about 26% less energy, and because they're also using more efficient energy sources, are producing 33% less in greenhouse gas emissions. LEED is really trying to push for more eco-labeling of buildings, and creating transparency here really could have a disruptive effect on this particular market. If you are more aware of the eco-efficiency of your building, it's likely that you're going to be able to draw better tenants, have better occupancy, and also higher sale price of your building. It's already shown that LEED buildings have a higher value in the market than traditionally built buildings. And here's the Apple example that Paul was just mentioning. I think the other thing that a company is needing to be aware of, and it's becoming more and more of an issue, is the carbon impacts of the products that are really outside of their direct control. The highest impact in the life cycle analysis for Apple was actually in the product use. So that's you and me charging our iPods and our iPhones. And companies are really starting to be held accountable for this phase of the life cycle. And they need to think about how to reduce these impacts as well. And I think the example that Paul just gave about the cold water wash, and I think Levi's and Gap are also looking at that. So next time you buy a pair of jeans or Dockers, take a look at the label, and I'm guessing that they would recommend you wash in cold water.
Yes, and building on that and just answering a question too from Ankush, do you think the airline industry is marketing some of its regular cost-cutting initiatives as sustainability initiatives, which might even be inhibiting them to reach the next level of sustainability? So I bring this up as we're covering Apple here, because Apple until recently, they had not disclosed this life cycle analysis, which if you go to the apple.com site and look under environmental reports, you'll see these for everything from the Nano to the larger products like the iPhone. And so there's a couple of things going on. So one is, are companies pursuing these initiatives or not? And what Apple has shown, or at least communicated, is they are doing them, they just haven't been very descriptive or transparent around them. The second one is, and there are other companies who I've interviewed in doing HIP investor analysis that aren't yet comfortable with disclosing the metrics, even though they might even be attractive. There was one consumer company I interviewed who said that their employee satisfaction was upwards of 90%, but that the board did not want to release that information because it wasn't 100%, which of course would be amazing if that was. So in answer to your question about is there potentially greenwashing going on, that it happens. The challenge is that when the initiatives save money and also save carbon, that's a legitimate an initiative to claim success for. I'd be interested in what you think the next level of sustainability might be for them. Ankush, I do know that Virgin and Continental Airlines both are testing biofuels because there's not yet a fossil fuel substitute. Not yet a fossil fuel substitute for. Oh no, we're just going to go ahead. Great. So, Tara, did you want to wrap up?
Yeah, sure. Let's just check where we have gotten to so far with climate. So we really want you to think about three things. What do you know about your carbon profile? Are you aware of the components of your carbon profile in your operations and in your supply chain? And what about the product life cycle, like the one we just looked at for Apple? Do you have a plan for reducing the greenhouse gas emissions all in your operations, in your supply chain, and in the product life cycle, including the product's use? And here's some ways that you can perhaps get started if you haven't yet. Tools like Climate Earth, who's going to be talking to us at our next session. Take a look at the carbon disclosure and ISO 14001. Make sure you're tracking the right metric. Paul's talked about this already, and the example of the American Airlines tracking their carbon intensity, not just the total number, is really good examples of what the right metrics are to track. Now you need to bear with us for just one moment as we switch over to the second half of our presentation.
Yeah, and so to answer the question both about the metrics and the triple bottom line metrics, and Ankush said, oh, should it be compared against miles flown or number of flights or percentage of revenue or even share of employees? Those are very helpful metrics to look at, and certainly to look at over time. So what you might see in several companies, especially heavy industrial companies like Alcoa, is that their intensity is going down over time. Now that may mean that their total gross volume is still, of carbon is still going up over time. As they grow their business, and the state of California has continued to decrease its carbon intensity and increase its environmental efficiency while still growing.
Okay.